Union Springs, Montgomery, and Auburn, and AM 620 WTRP, LaGrange. The opening segment of Sports Call is brought to you by Lee Marketing Group. For signage, tees, web design, and more, call LMG today at 334-742-0197.
You better buckle your seatbelts because it's going to be a show to watch.
From Tiger Communications.
Jackson, touchdown.
For 20 years, East Alabama's sports talk leader.
Where you drive, Mountain right.
Sports Call.
Oh, what a dunk.
Call in now at 887-3401 locally.
Right through, he got it.
Or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sports Call.
Hello, everyone, and good Tuesday afternoon. I am Andy Graham alongside Randy Lee, bringing you the latest edition of Sports Call. We appreciate all of you out there joining us this afternoon. We would love for you to be a part of the program. Give us a call at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on our Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline. You can check us out on our Facebook page, or you can just send us a tweet at Sports Call AU, whether you're listening on 93.9 The Tiger or on sportscallauburn.com. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Got a great show for you planned. Jason Caldwell will be joining us at 4:30 to bring us up to date on everything going on in Auburn athletics, talk about Auburn's injury situation moving forward as they prepare to take on LSU this Saturday in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Sports Call today is brought to you by Always Money. Always Money offers title loans, cash advance loans, Western Union services, and they buy your gold. Visit one of their many convenient locations or visit them on the web at alwaysmoney.com. Always Money. Easy, convenient, friendly, and fast. A lot happened this weekend in the world of athletics. Europe defeated the United States 16.5 to 11.5 in the Ryder Cup there in Glen Eagles, Scotland. That means the Europeans have now won 8 of the last 10 Ryder Cups. Tom Watson's coaching philosophy came into some question by Phil Mickelson as well as some other golfers. That is a situation that it brings some interest around the world. I think the Ryder Cup, but the United States certainly, whatever they have been doing, has not been working. It seems like it's that time of year for the fire brigade. Charlie Weiss was let go at Kansas just 4 or 5 games into the season. He was 6-22 overall in his tenure there, only 1-18 there in the Big 12. Dennis Allen was fired from the Raiders after an 0-4 start. He was 8-28 overall. So you could see these firings coming. The Twins fired their longtime manager, Rod Gardenhire, after 13 seasons there in Minnesota. Who will be next? Obviously, Brady Hoke is a guy that is pretty high on that list. Perhaps the interim AD there at Michigan is pretty high on that list as well. The Chiefs humiliated the Patriots last night, 41-14 on Monday Night Football. Is the Tom Brady era there? The Patriots, is that window closed for them moving forward? The MLB playoffs, the wild card games begin tonight. Oakland travels to Kansas City. That game is 7 p.m. on TBS. Tomorrow night, San Francisco travels to Pittsburgh. That game will be on ESPN. MLB playoffs, if you'd like to talk about that, we'd love to talk about that moving forward in the show. It was a really interesting weekend in college football. Arkansas and Tennessee played extremely well, but came up just a little short. As far as kicking off the show today, we'll, of course, talk about Auburn and Louisiana Tech. The Auburn Tigers defeating the Bulldogs 45-17 on an overcast homecoming Saturday afternoon. And our question of the day today, brought to you by Lee Marketing Group, who has impressed you the most this season on the defensive side? Auburn, the offense continues to sputter a little bit here and there, but the defense, Reddy, you just have to look at what they've done as a whole so far this season, and it is such a breath of fresh air.
I think that when you move into LSU week and the big week on the Plains and needing to cure the ills that we have had with that program for the last decade, I mean, I won't throw out the whole decade, but a majority of it, they've had our number, to say the least. So hopefully we can get things corrected. We have jumped in there and defeated them a few times, but LSU has been one of the stronger teams in the SEC. So we need to talk something positive. Come into the program here on Tuesday and talk about the defensive side of the ball. All of us Auburn fans wanted to see the defensive units that we saw not only in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. Brett said it so eloquently. Randy, we're not going to see that anymore. It's the up-tempo brand of offense. But we have seen great defensive teams in this country, namely Alabama right across the state in the last several years. So defensive play has been outstanding, in my opinion, in comparison to what we've seen the last couple of years. That is our question of the day. Which defensive player have you been impressed with the most leading into the season? You and I'll start. I could easily go out there and say Montravius Adams. I think that he's a run stopper. I think he's outstanding in defense there. Had a couple of big plays as well with an interception return that he took down to the 2 or 3 yard line, a fumble recovery also. But I'm going to point to a couple of players that maybe we don't talk enough about. I like Rudy Ford in the secondary. I think that if he's not the bigger physical safety that you're looking for, he's a little mix of both. He does great in coverage, and I think he is physical back there at the safety post and making tackles. And so far this season, Trevon Reed, when he's on the field for me in the secondary at corner, he has that swagger that you look for in a corner. He's shocked when he's beat. When he is beat, he points to himself, but he lets you know when he makes a play. He kind of reminds me of David Irons a touch. Got a very good way that he carries himself out on the field. I'll kick it over to you. That's just 2 that I came up with.
I think Chris Frost is really having a good year. This is a guy that we have been waiting for to step up for so long now. He and Casanova McKenzie both have played very well, at the linebacker position, and have played nearly about – Chris Frost has played nearly about every snap. I know Ellis Johnson is trying to get more and more guys involved, Trey Williams, I just think Chris Frost has done an outstanding job this year in coverage as well as coming off the edge as a blitzer. He's gotten after the quarterback pretty good. You saw him limp off the field. He kind of got rolled up on that interception return. We'll kind of, we'll catch up with Jason Caldwell and see if he can update us on his status a little bit. Casanova McKenzie had the mild concussion, so that's another one that we're having to watch. That would be a huge loss if those 2 guys can't play against LSU, because of the fact that LSU is a power running game, and you want to have your guys back there, especially your middle linebacker, your 250-pound middle linebacker there to try to shore up some of those gaps. So that those 2 guys I think have played well, but Chris Frost really has stood out to me the most.
When I look at the offense for LSU and just going down, they're averaging 226 yards per game running the football, throwing the football for 236 a game. So they're very balanced. They haven't had a running back really separate himself from the other one so far this year. Leonard Fournette has 327 yards on 56 carries. Kenny Hilliard has 57 carries and 300 yards. So they're right there around the same, both of them with 4 touchdowns on the season. It's always been my concern when we play LSU that one running back steps up and it's a Cecil Collins, and we look on the other side and, but wow, what happened? Maybe that's in the past. Hope we don't see that here, because Auburn's only allowing 90 yards per game running the football. And back in 2010, when we won the national championship, we weren't great defensively, but we could hang our hat on one thing. No team was going to line up and just run it down our throat and continue down that path. So we did have a portion of the defense that we knew we were very good with. Last year, the portion of the defense that we were great with is in the red zone. We were tops in the nation, I believe, in a lot of different categories once teams got into the red zone getting points on the board. That's a good stat to be pro with, but I think this year, if we can continue to do what we're doing, only allowing 16.7 points per game, look out. So, again, we'd love to hear from you. Which Auburn defensive player have you been most impressed with so far? 888-9 Tiger 9 334-887-3401.
Yeah, you go back. It's really been since 2008 since Auburn put a really competitive, really sound defense on the field. 2009. Like you said, we gave up a ton of yards. 2010, we could stop the run. That was what, like you said, that was the one thing that we did extremely well. We led the SEC in rush defense, and a big surprise, we made it all the way to the national championship game and won it, beat Oregon, holding them a prolific offense to well below their numbers. But you look at 2011, 2012, 2013. I mean, you talk about record amounts of yards given up, points given up at an alarming pace. Finally, you're seeing now. Again, we haven't gotten into the meat of the schedule yet, but here's an Auburn team that is only giving up, a little over 300 yards total offense a game. I have been waiting for this for so long, and it's so it is. It gives you so much hope. It gives you the idea that, well, we can struggle a little bit on the offensive end. We don't have to make every single third down. We don't have to make every single drive end up in a touchdown because of the defense is giving us a little bit more margin for error. And that is a huge factor moving forward.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Ed in Auburn, you're on Sports Call.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing?
Good, Ed.
I'm doing okay today. It's still rough, but as far as when you get an opportunity to play, what exactly in your mind does that mean?
When you get an opportunity to play, you mean by players?
To play other players, what does that mean to you?
I'm not sure I understand.
All right, let me just go a little bit further. Do you think Auburn is going to have any better opportunities this year to play backups than what they had against Louisiana Tech? And they didn't play them, and they got players hurt. They had the perfect opportunity to play other players, and it was the stubbornness of the coaches that wouldn't. You're not going to get any better of an opportunity to play backup players to get them experience than what we had. And I love Auburn. I love our coaches and everything else. But when I hear, well, if we ever get the opportunity, we're not going to get a better opportunity than what we had against La Tech late in the game not late in the game, earlier in the game to put other players in and get them experience. You're not going to get ahead 100-0. We had the perfect opportunity to play other players and refuse to do so, and I think it is very, very foolish. I think it's short-sighted, and I love Auburn. I love their coaches, but I'm telling you that our two starting linebackers are banged up because they wouldn't put in, Swain, Trey Williams, and some other guys, and you're not going to get a better opportunity. You've got to take those chances and opportunities if you're going to build depth on your team. You're not going to get it handed to you any simpler, any easier than they had last Saturday, and they absolutely refused to do it. And there's no way your kids are going to get experience unless you let them play. And I love Auburn, but they have got to get off of this. We've got 22 guys, and we've got plenty of guys, and we did play a lot of guys later on during the game, but not during meaningful snaps, and not during the time that they can really get some quality snaps. And eventually, if they don't get off of it, it's going to come back by them more than it did. It bit them Saturday. The three guys that got hurt that shouldn't have even, that should be. Casanova has been playing way too many snaps throughout the year. And I think Trey Williams, I think some other guys are capable of playing. And I think certain members of the coaching staff believe that. I'm going to hang up, but could you explain to me who it is that's deciding that, no, we're not going to play, but how they decide
Well, let us.
what's a good opportunity. And I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ed, for the phone call. And for about a minute before we head into break, let me quickly say we're only up 24-10. We scored 2 consecutive touchdowns, took it to 38-10, ended up 45-17. The game was not in doubt until later on. I will say this. Offensively, I felt like we needed to leave the majority of the starters on the field a lot longer than we even did, because we've got some concerns there to me. And if you're going to iron out the concerns, when's a better time to iron them out than in real live situations? The first half of the ball game, we sputtered a bit offensively, but when you look down at the final stat line, Nick Marshall has 105 yards rushing, 8 yards. I thought he ran the ball well between the tackles, which we really haven't seen this year. Everything's been on the outside. So I saw some positives later on. Those injuries to the linebackers were early in the ball game. Saw that in the first half. So,
yeah,
again, that game wasn't in doubt.
Yeah, the injuries to the linebackers, and even Patrick Miller for that matter, those didn't happen because, we should have been playing somebody else later in the game. I do understand the point, though, that McKenzie and Frost have been playing the vast majority of the snaps, although, Trey Williams got thrown into the mix because he had no choice Saturday, and he got a lot of meaningful snaps. So maybe it was, it wasn't because it wasn't by choice, but it ended up being hopefully a good thing moving on down the line. I understand what you're saying, Ed, but who makes those decisions? I think Ellis Johnson makes those decisions. Apparently he's not 100% comfortable with those other linebackers. He said that, in the preseason, that he didn't feel like the second teamers had stepped up enough. Why that is, I don't know. But moving forward, I think you're going to have to see more and more guys play because of injuries like this. You don't go through the SEC season without getting banged up, and right now Auburn's banged up. We're going to have to use some of the younger guys whether we want to or not. We're going to go ahead and take our first break here of the Tuesday Sports Call, but please join us on the other side of this break. More Sports Call right after this.
On a land trip or cruise, contact Ruta Lisa Anderson at Cruise Planners today. Why do the planning when it can be done for you? Visit exclusivecruiseplanners.com or call 844-722-6342.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on our AO Tourism hotline. Randy, we talked a lot about the defense there in the first segment. They are definitely a bright spot this season. Of course, they are still giving up a couple of big plays a game that some of these trash plays that Ellis Johnson's always talking about, that certainly they could clean up a little bit, and they definitely have some room for improvement moving forward. But when you watch the game Saturday, you couldn't help but notice offensively Auburn comes out of the gate. I was hoping they would come out angry. I was hoping they would come out with, a whole lot of fire, and that you would really be able to tell that, that they would just kind of, manhandle, try to run the ball and really overpower Louisiana Tech. And it just didn't happen in that first quarter. And the offense continued to sputter a little bit. First and third quarters were really, a negative issue for Auburn. But second and fourth quarters were actually pretty good. Auburn got in sync a little bit. They ran the ball a lot more, a lot better, a lot more effectively. But I can say that I am officially concerned about the offense moving forward in the running game, for that matter. If I'm James Kirk on the Enterprise, it's yellow alert. Okay, we just need to be aware that problems could be down the road. There could be problems on the horizon. Right now, it's okay. It's not a big issue right now, but there could be problems down the way.
I'll get a comment in there just a second. Let's go back to the phone lines. Mark, you're on Sports Call.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Mark.
I'm just kind of curious. I just turned it on. What's the status on the linebackers and the offensive line? Are they going to be playing Saturday, or do they know yet?
I don't know. I think it's probably you'll have to move. It'll be a little bit further down the week before we know for sure. But they say both of them earlier this week. They said both of them could play, but certainly the concussion with Casanova McKenzie, those kind of things, they're very delicate about, very deliberate about it. It'll be interesting. I think there's probably a greater chance that Chris Frost will play than Casanova McKenzie, but hopefully both will. We'll have to just wait and see.
And Mark, we'll have Jason Caldwell with Inside the Auburn Tigers on next segment. We'll ask him those questions, and maybe he has some insight there.
And the offensive lineman, same thing, right?
Yeah, same thing there. He did practice Sunday, and we'll just have to see.
Okay. I got one question to ask you. If you look at Auburn's schedule, and this is just what you think about this, and if Florida State had to play Auburn's schedule, how many games do you think they'd win or lose?
I mean, I
think
see
three.
I see 3 or 4 losses sitting there potentially, and it just depends on whether their running game came together. And last weekend, Florida State defensively they looked pretty anemic against North Carolina State, but offensively they looked outstanding, and it was the first game that I can remember that they've put together a good rushing attack. So I got to tip my hat to them offensively last week.
I think the SEC champion can have 1 or 2 losses for some reason.
I agree with you this year. As I look over here at Auburn's schedule, LSU this weekend on the road at Mississippi State, South Carolina. It's brutal. I mean, you can trying to figure out how you're going to go through this unscathed is hard for me to believe.
Me too. I appreciate taking a phone call.
Thanks so much, Mark. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401.
Yeah, what do you think about the Auburn offense? Why are they continuing to struggle to run the ball? We had 250 yards rushing, ended up, against Louisiana Tech. That's not a bad day. You win 45-17 going away on homecoming. You come into the season, or you just look at that and say, hey, that'd be fine with me. But high expectations are saying, we ought to look better than this. That was a hard fought 45-17, and it shouldn't have been that hard, I guess is what we're saying.
I'm not a film watcher, so don't stick to this. But first off, Greg Robinson's not there. And when you need a first down or you need a big gain and you've got the best offensive lineman in the country, you can run behind that guy and you can find a hole. I think that's a big part of the story. Offensive line, I think, is the biggest part of the story. Trey Mason not being there could be part of it, but when I look at Cap's numbers, he's averaging 117 yards per game running the football, 5.5 yards per carry. Maybe doesn't have that extra burst of speed to pick up the huge gains down the field, but he's been efficient. I mean, 5.5 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns, 117 yards a game. Nick Marshall, 85 yards per game running the ball. Had a good game this past weekend. Nick Marshall, 7.5 yards per carry when he's had to do it. Between the tackles, you said that coming into to the show today. You saw him run between the tackles more than trying to hit the corner each time. So I think that's something to hang your hat on, but it is offensive line. If you ask me, the first thing that concerns me going in, it's offensive front. And if that one's going to rear its ugly head, it's going to be this weekend against – you always know LSU's got one of the best defensive lines in the conference. I don't care if it's a down year, whatever the year is, they will expose you if your offensive line's not up to the task.
Well, the biggest difference between this year's offense and last year's to me is the negative plays. Auburn has found themselves in second and long and third and long so much this year as opposed to last year that this offense is not built. Now, it's kind of universal. You could say that about every offense. You cannot find yourself in second and 10 to 12, or third and 8+ because it's just the statistics say that you're just not going to be able to complete, and make those third downs moving forward. But this offense in particular seems to struggle a great deal. I looked at it and went through the play-by-play charts. In the first quarter, Auburn faced 8 second and third and long situations. Then the result, we only had 1 touchdown, and that was due to a turnover. Down starting at the 3-yard line because of Montravius Adams' interception. The second quarter, we only faced 3 second or third and long situations. We put up 17 points. Third quarter, we faced, again, 6 second and long or third and long situations, scored 0 points in the third quarter. Fourth quarter, again, we only faced 3 second and third and long situations. We scored 21 points. Auburn has got to figure out a way to find, be more productive on first down. Does that mean throwing the ball more on first down? It may do it, but we cannot start out in second and 10 because it just kills our drives. If we have to start out in second and 5, we need to average at least 4 or 5 yards on first down. If we have to throw it, if we have to run it, it doesn't matter. But we have got to figure out a way to be better on first down and keep ourselves out of these bad situations.
Let's quickly go to the phone line. Going to go a couple of minutes over here on this segment. Jason Caldwell with Inside the Auburn Tigers will be on with us next segment. But Shadow, you're on Sports Call.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to make a comment. A couple of comments regarding our offense. Number one, we're calling too many running plays on first down. Number two, I think Auburn, we pretty much had a very good handle on the loss of Robinson. And everyone on the team was in one accord about Sean Coleman being a stronger offensive lineman. So we were looking at a plus situation. I think that Malzahn, and I'm hoping that I'm right about this, because if I'm not, then we're going to be in trouble against LSU. We have typically not done well against freshman quarterbacks. And I think Harris is one of the best. But, I think that they've been doing that on purpose in order to show a minimum of offensive scheming. I think a lot of times confidence does not come because you don't know what you're doing. And we've been mixing and matching so much that maybe everybody's just dizzy. I think that we need some cohesiveness. The injuries have certainly not helped that. But I'm picking Auburn 20-17, and I'm very proud of our defense. Thank you.
Shadow, thanks so much for your phone call. Up against a break here. We will take your predictions today, and I'll pass that along. Shadow was our winner this past week.
How about Jason Caldwell will join us next. More Sports Call on the way right after this.
This segment of Sports Call is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Here's to a one-of-a-kind Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is a proud sponsor of the college football playoff. Dr. Pepper, always one of a kind.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on our AO Tourism hotline. We're going to catch up with Jason Caldwell maybe a little later. We'll open back up the phone lines right now, though. Sports Call today brought to you by Auburn Urgent Care. Auburn Urgent Care offers convenient solutions for your healthcare and occupational medicine needs, including workman's compensation injury care and certified DOT medical examinations. With locations on South College and in Tigertown, visit them online at auburnurgentcare.com.
Another comment for the offensive side and the deficiencies there, if you can call it that. I mean, when you look down the stat line, again, this is nothing to worry about. But one big stat that jumps out to me, that if you would have told me that we'd be 4 football games into the season and Corey Grant's longest rush is 24 yards, I'd said you're crazy. There's no way. And when you watch that Auburn speed sweep, it takes a Jay Prosh. It takes an end first to seal the defensive end. It takes Jay Prosh getting a hold of outside backer. And then it takes the receivers stalk blocking downfield to give Corey Grant an opportunity to beat the secondary. Once he's behind the secondary, and he's no slower now than he was then, once he's behind the secondary, it's over. He'll take it to the house. But 24 yards is his longest gain on the season. He's averaging 6.5 yards per carry. That's a shock to me, and maybe that is the H-back. I know there was talk this week or after the game about Cameron Toney moving over to spell Brandon Fultz at H-back. Do we see some more of that? Just some of your thoughts there, Andy.
Yeah, I think Jay Prosh is a guy that we always, he was kind of a forgotten man in that everybody said we were going to miss him, but I'm not sure everybody understood how much we were going to miss him because of what he meant to the offense. They came in 2012 and said, Scott Leffler said, this guy's one of the best blockers he's ever seen. He's going to be a big deal in the offense. Of course, the offense was just dreadful, and it didn't really matter. And then Gus Malzahn comes in 2013, says he's going to be a big part of this offense. You just don't realize what a great blocker he is. It took him a little while. It took him a few games to get implemented in the offense and really get comfortable in it. And then he kind of took off. I think was talking about this yesterday, and I thought he made a good point that you not only now you're losing Jay Prosh, who was in the backfield at the H-back, but then Brandon Fultz was out on the outside on the perimeter and blocking as well. And he did a good job there. He hasn't seemed to have translated that well to the H-back position. So you not only are losing that one blocker, you're losing 2 good blockers. And like you said, I don't know if the receivers are just struggling right now, but our perimeter blocking is nowhere near what it was last year. We cannot seem to get outside. We cannot seem to get Corey Grant loose on the jet sweep. And if the jet sweep isn't working to stretch defenses out, that's when they load up and they can put that 7 or 8 there in the box and, just clog up the middle. And that negates a lot of our running between the tackles as well. So all these things are kind of in conjunction with one another. When one aspect doesn't work, it affects the other aspects. And, we're just not right. We're just not clicking on all cylinders. We're not. It just seems like we cannot seem to get everybody on the same page on every play. I know when Rhett Lashley said, one of the biggest things we understand now, I think, is if you don't have all 11 guys doing their job on a single play, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it shows up, especially perimeter blocking, because if a receiver loses his block down the field and he makes the stop, and normally that's right around the line of scrimmage. If not, it's behind the line of scrimmage. And we saw that inside the 15-yard line. We try speed sweep to Corey, and he's tackled 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So again, we'd love to hear from you. 888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. Our question of the day: which defensive player have you been most impressed with so far? Again, we'd love to hear from you there. That's been a big positive for the Tigers so far in the early part of the season. We hope it continues and just continues to get better in year 2 with Ellis Johnson. Passing the football, only 1 interception on the season. That's a big number. Turnovers.
And that was tipped.
Yeah, it was a tip ball. And Nick Marshall, 37 of 67, 500 yards passing. So he's thrown for 166 yards per game. Jeremy Johnson's been unbelievable. 19 of 25, 76% completion percentage, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INT. So he has looked outstanding when he's in. But Nick hasn't looked all that bad in a couple of those throws that he put right on the money to Quan Bray this past weekend. That shows you exactly the reason this coaching staff is hanging in there with him, not getting too flustered with some missed throws on some drag routes. But Nick Marshall hopefully can get things going like we saw in the spring. In the spring, we all thought that it would be well above a 60% completion percentage. And if we could get that from Nick Marshall, watch out.
Yeah, two things. Number one, we got to talk about Quan Bray in the game that he had. Just maybe it's a coming out party for him finally as a senior. He stepped up in the passing game. He obviously announced himself as a weapon. That we can throw the ball down, not only downfield, but obviously get the ball to him out in open space and let him make some plays. 3 touchdowns for him. We talked about before. That was one of the big things coming into the season. Punt return, special teams. We were losing Chris Davis. How are we going to replace him? I mean, obviously, we felt like we wouldn't be able to replace him. He had done so much. Now Quan Bray comes in. He's already taken 2 back to the house already. He's got a great return percentage right now, or yards per return right now. And a good guy. Quan Bray, been through a lot. A guy personally that has dealt with some tragedy. Just when he immediately when he came to Auburn. So a guy you root for, a guy that you're glad to see really doing well is Quan Bray.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Mike and Opelika, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys.
Good to hear from you, Mike.
Yeah. I don't have a individual player. I just that whole defensive front. I think it's really impressed me, man. It's like we Bills better than years past. I've just seen an individual. Hello?
Yeah, you're still up, Mike.
Okay, yeah, that's my surprise on that.
Well, we appreciate the phone call this afternoon, and you're exactly right. That defensive front's been outstanding, only 90 yards rushing per game allowed, and if you can do that, somebody's doing something right up front to get some push and allow those linebackers like Chris Frost that you pointed to that's impressed you so far. It takes the defensive front to allow that.
Yeah. Hey, I got another thing, though. Why is it you think that coaches are so bent on letting upperclassmen play? Man, I like Corey. Corey, because, he's a fast player. But, man, he's just absolutely scared to run that ball up on the inside. I mean, I was at the game Saturday. There's a couple of times where he couldn't set that ball up, and he could have got an additional, 10 yards maybe, but he just refused to go up inside.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that, Mike. We appreciate your phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. Love to hear from you again. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Corey, when he's got the ball in his hands, to me, he looks like he's going 900-0, trying anything he can. I haven't seen him slack off from contact that you see a lot of the speed sweep guys. McCaleb, he'd get out of bounds quickly. He was a great speed sweep guy, and he was great on the perimeter, but I never saw him want to really run between the tackles. There's just not a lot there a lot of times. There's not the holes there. And does that mean Trey Mason was just that good at finding creases and not allowing tackles around the line of scrimmage? Maybe so, but something tells me when those coaches watch the film back that there's some blocking not being done that we saw last year.
And it's not only Greg Robinson. Remember, we're missing Alex Kozan as well. And I think maybe people underestimate how good he was, especially in the running game last year. I'm like you, Corey Grant, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a matter of time before he finds a hole and he breaks one. I think that's what you want to see. You want to see him get loose one time. And why you play upperclassmen experience. Guys that know the playbook, the guys that know that you can trust and that are going to do what needs to be done when they're on the field.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Jim in Phoenix City, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
I'm good. I didn't hear anybody on the phone. Listen, I was kind of curious. I'm a big CJ Uzomah fan. It seems to me there's been times we could have thrown a little more to him, especially when these teams are stacking the box, and they're really pushing hard with those linebackers slipping out behind them. And another thing on offense that we haven't done this year, and I really thought we were going to do it against K-State, was going to run the tackle over, maybe put that Braden Smith out there over there with Sean Coleman and run at them. And we haven't done that. And I just wonder what y'all's thoughts were about that.
Jim, thank you so much for your phone call. And, Jim, all I can tell you is our counterpart, Brett Pritchard, every time Auburn's on the air, he's pointing to CJ. Why in the world is he not involved in the offense? So I'll say he says the exact same thing that you do, and I get a text from him the exact time that CJ catches touchdown pass. Brett Pritchard says, where's he been? Why can't we get the ball to him? I do think that maybe we're missing something there. But going back to Shadow's response about I'd like to see more passing on first down, I think Auburn's got some open receivers, and I think we could throw the ball more. But against La Tech, trying to find the running game and get things short up there before the SEC play is going to be important. Just what do you think, Andy?
I think we need to do – I think that's exactly what we tried to come out and do. We said we're going to establish a run no matter what against Louisiana Tech because we have struggled. Because we did struggle against Kansas State, we came out, we were a little hard-headed, and I think moving forward we're going to have to get away from that. We're going to have to do whatever. The way you loosen up that middle is to throw the ball on first down to loosen up that defense, and I think Nick Marshall's capable of that, and I think that's what we're going to need to do moving forward, and I think C.J. Uzomah has to be part of that offense. He's too talented a weapon not to use. The tight end kind of is a position that can be deadly if used properly, but so many teams just it seems to get lost in the shuffle. So we need to make a concerted effort. I think we need to make a concerted effort to get the ball to Sammy Coates a little bit more, to get him more involved as well. Again, he's another guy too talented not to be used more than we've used him this year. We'll go ahead and take our next break here on the Tuesday edition of Sports Call, but be sure to join us on the other side. More Sports Call on the way.
dust in the wind. That door was like a ball of love.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll-free or locally at 334-887-3401 on our AO Tourism hotline. Randy, sometimes, coaches say that you have success maybe, and it's on a play that maybe you shouldn't have, and it's not necessarily a good thing. You don't want to reinforce bad habits or something. We scored twice Saturday on throws that were probably should not have been made. One, Nick Marshall throws, it gets tipped. I'm not sure it wouldn't have been intercepted anyway if it hadn't have been tipped, but Duke Williams makes one of the most – just an incredible catch, reaching back with the left hand, with one hand, taking it in between two defenders and scoring a touchdown. And the other one, Nick Marshall just kind of being Nick Marshall, scrambling around, throws off 1 foot about 60 yards, and Quan Bray goes up, high points the ball, and makes a play. But while they were both spectacular and while they were both you don't ever want to, be too upset about a touchdown pass. You wonder maybe, do we have a false sense of security of where we are? I mean,
I don't know. I look at this receiving core, and I want to give them chances like that. And Duke Williams has been all that he was touted as the top wide receiver coming out of the JUCO ranks, the number 1 overall prospect coming out of the JUCO ranks this past year. And I can see why. And averaging 89 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, looks the part. When we've got a third down conversion, you can go and point to him. We're going his way, and he's physical enough to get between the secondary player that's on him and make a grab. So I think we'll continue to see more and more. Here's a scary number. Duke Williams got 23 catches on the year. Who do you think's second on the team?
Ricardo Lewis.
Ricardo Lewis with 9 catches. Then you go down to Quan Bray with 6. Sammy Coates so far on the year. Now, I know that he's got a nagging injury, but this is a major player. When you came into the season, if you thought, on the opposite side, if we can get the same production that we got from Sammy Coates from Duke Williams this year, we may have something. Sammy Coates only with 5 catches on the season. 4 games into the season. He's only played 3 of those, but 5 catches on the season. I don't think any of us would have thought that.
No, and that's why I say I think we need to make a concerted effort. I think he's getting more close to 100%, so we need to make a concerted effort to get him involved in the offense. Now, he's dropped a couple of passes. It's not like they haven't thrown his way. I think they threw, in the Kansas State game, they threw at least 5 or 6 times through his way. We need to continue to do that. We need to try to continue to not only get him deep, too. I think we need to run some crossing routes with him just to get him the ball and let him rumble. He is such a once he gets going, if he gets, behind the defense, it's over. You're not going to catch him as well. And he's big and physical enough that he could break some tackles as well. So and you can do this. This is not a matter of, we tried. You can force the ball to him. I don't think we need to go overboard, but we definitely need to get him involved.
Love to hear from you on the other side. 888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Our question of the day: which defensive player have you been most impressed with so far this season? Call us.
The Fox Sports Report is up next. More Sports Call on the way.
you better buckle your seatbelts because it's going to be a show to watch.
From Tiger Communications.
Jackson, touchdown.
For 20 years, East Alabama's sports talk leader.
Swing and drive, mountain right.
Sportscall.
Oh, what a dunk.
Call in now at 887-3401 local.
Right through, he got it.
Or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains. Sports Call. This segment of Sports Call is brought to you by Reinhardt Prattville, located on Cobbs Ford Road, 334-290-1992. Visit us online at ReinhardtPrattville.com. Reinhardt Prattville. We sell to sell again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call, hour number 2. Andy Graham and Randy Lee here with you for another hour, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free or locally at 334-887-3401 on our AO Tourism hotline. We talked a lot about it in the first hour, the Auburn Tigers, certainly the game, Auburn versus Louisiana Tech. We were both pretty impressed with the defense, neither impressed totally with the offense. Still a lot of kinks to work out in that system, and a lot of work that needs to be done, especially on first down. Auburn cannot find themselves in second and long moving forward. In the second hour, we'll talk a little bit about these other college football games that happened this weekend. A lot of near misses. Tennessee and Arkansas specifically, South Carolina, Missouri, another pretty good game as well. But right now, we'll go back to the AO Tourism hotline.
Shadow, you're on Sports Call.
Yeah, thank y'all for letting me call back. Y'all got to talking about the passing game, and I wanted to make an observation. If you look back in our past with our two previous head coaches in Pat Dye and Tommy Tuberville, you saw that a lot of times it seemed that they were more focused on the run, and that they would run the ball at the risk of the successfulness of maybe a passing game, and they ran it to their detriment, almost trying to prove that they were going to make the running game be effective. Do you see a correlation where now it may be very easy to see that our passing game is more effective than the running game, but because you've got such a big game, not only from the standing standpoint, but the tiebreaker standpoint, so you're seeing that maybe Auburn is forcing the run at the sacrifice of the best passing receivers I've ever seen at Auburn, and we might need to take advantage and attack from the passing game instead of making our running game be our bread and butter. Do you agree or not?
Honestly, as I watch, I agree with you to a point so far, but I think we'll know a lot more in the next 4 weeks because Auburn is going to, in my opinion, I don't think we're going to run for 300 yards a game like we did last year. I think it's going to be closer to 200. Can we make up that 100 yards of offense throwing the ball? Absolutely, I think we can. I think we're that dynamic with the receiving core and with quarterbacks that have been there, whether it be Nick Marshall or Jeremy Johnson. But, Shadow, you bring up points that all Auburn fans are saying. When are we going to take that route? I think we'll see this weekend.
Are we trying to avoid a quarterback scenario for the unity of the team when maybe we need to put Mr. Johnson in there and attack from the word get-go with an effective passing game like we did against Arkansas, and the game would have been over by halftime?
Well, you fall in love with last year because Auburn was so successful running the football. But when you look back at Malzahn's, college career, he has been balanced pretty much. He has not been a guy that wanted to run the ball first, but not like he has at Auburn. And I think, maybe it's just a hangover from last year. Maybe we fell so in love with the running game, but I think we need to be as balanced as we can be. I don't. Especially this year, like Randy said, and I think like you and everybody else can see, we're not going to be able to run the ball like we did last year. we're going to have to be able to throw the ball a little bit better, and I think we need to do it on first down.
Well, my last comment, and I'll hang up and listen, but it has always seemed, even when I was watching Malzahn at Tulsa, one of the biggest things that Malzahn always did was if he had a better passing game, he attacked from that standpoint. If he had a better running game, he made that go. But he didn't try to make one go at the expense of the other. And that's a major thing that I believe cost Tuberville and Pat Dye national titles at Auburn. Thank you.
Shadow, thanks so much for the phone call. Our question of the day, which defensive player have you been most impressed with? We've talked a ton about the offensive side. Defensive side has been such a big bright spot so far this season, but if you want to call in and give a little bit more comment or some thoughts on the offensive play for Auburn, it hasn't been poor. I mean, look, we're still running the ball.
Comparatively speaking.
But comparatively speaking, we're down to 260 yards rushing a game.
Down to.
And we'll see this weekend against with LSU. Can Auburn make the big play in the passing game? I tend to think that we can. I think that we will. I think the coaching staff, even going into Kansas State, Andy, and I'd like your thoughts on this. Do you honestly think that they thought they were going to hold us to 20 points, the coaching staff?
No.
I don't think so either. So I think you go into the game plan not wanting to show everything that you've got. So far this season, when haven't had to. The first half against Arkansas, Jeremy Johnson was outstanding. Look, at least we've got somebody standing over there that I am super confident with that could throw the ball around as good as anybody in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, Nick Marshall is the starter of this team, and the reason he is because he's a winner. You look at his record. I mean, he's only lost one game, regular season game, as a starter. So he finds ways to get it done. He rises to the challenge every single time. We are more effective running a run-oriented offense with him back there. Now, is Jeremy Johnson more adept at the passing game? Obviously, he is. We all know that, but he's the backup. He has not proven himself that he can rise to the challenge, lead Auburn to victories in and out. Now, he's going to get his chance. Maybe he'll do even better. Maybe he'll take Auburn to next year to heights that they've never seen before. But right now, Nick Marshall is the guy, and I think you're seeing Gus Malzahn frame his offense around what Nick Marshall's strengths are, and right now that's running the read option. It hasn't worked quite as well as it did last year, but it's still early. We're still trying to work out the kinks a little bit with the offensive line, trying to gel, and trying to figure out that H-back situation as well. So if everybody does their job a little bit better, I think the offense certainly will get a lot better.
888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. East and West standings. This Eastern Division may be worse than I thought coming into the season, and the Western Division even better than I thought coming into the season. The East still led by Missouri, 4-1 overall. So I give you an East that has an Indiana loss at home on the resume, and they're the tops in the conference. Do you have anybody that you think's better than Missouri as you look over on the Eastern side right now?
Well, I think Missouri gets Georgia at home. That's a big deal. If they can right now you look at Missouri and you think they're in a tremendous position. They got the win on the road over South Carolina. Was there not a little karma in that game? With the way South Carolina went to Missouri last year and won, for them to come back and come, I turned it. I didn't even know anything about it, but watched the replay of it and turned it on. South Carolina was up 20-7 with 7 minutes to play in the fourth quarter, and I thought, what in the world happened? And Matty Mock just let them down, 2 times and punched it in. South Carolina could do nothing to stop them. But you look at the East. Georgia certainly. I think Georgia's the most talented team, but Missouri they have the best route, and to me, it sets up for Missouri to back-to-back Eastern Division champions.
888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. Reminder, didn't have Jason Caldwell at 4:30, but we will have him on at 5:30 this afternoon. We'll try to run down some of those injury updates and catch up with some of the things that are going inside the Auburn Tigers so far. I talked about the East. Then you move over to the West. This is ridiculous. Texas A&M number 6, Alabama number 3, Auburn number 5, Mississippi State 12, Ole Miss 11, LSU 15. It's unreal.
The worst
really
team
is.
in the West is Arkansas, and they look like they're probably a top 20 team.
And who wants to play them?
Nobody.
I'm glad we got them first game of the season, watching them against A&M this past weekend. But, Andy, that moves down into last weekend's games, and we'll start with them. How'd they drop that one? You got to know that they're sitting in Brett Bielema and all the troubles that he's been through in building a program. You got to know they feel better about their chances to start this season. But, gosh, you got to win that football game.
Well, there's two kind of innocuous plays there that going down the stretch that I think were the difference in the game. Number one, the tripping call. I don't know if you saw that. Arkansas was up 14 in the fourth quarter, and Jonathan Williams breaks off a run down to about the 5-yard line. Arkansas would have gone up 21 points more likely. They bring it back. They don't get any points out of it. And then they're up 7, driving the ball, just, ripping 5 yards off a pop. And they bring the backup center in for whatever reason. I guess I don't know if the regular center was hurt. I'm not even sure if I remember, but they fumbled the snap. And they end up 2nd and 12, just like Auburn. This Arkansas team cannot afford to be in second behind the chains. They're 2nd and 12. They end up missing a 45-yard field goal instead of maybe getting it down a little closer and kicking a 20-yard field goal and winning the game. Those are the two plays to me that changed, that really lost the game for Arkansas.
Do you watch this program, and do you watch the offensive line and those two backs? I mean, these numbers, they don't lie. Alex Collins, $131, Jonathan Williams, 95, and you take that big run away that you just mentioned there. Brett Bielema, he's starting to make me think that what he did at Wisconsin, now do I think that he's going to year in and year out take out Auburn, Alabama, and LSU? No, but I think that he stands just as good a chance as anyone else in the country to build a program that can compete with those three teams.
I do too, but sooner or later you got to win these close games.
I agree with
or otherwise you don't make any progress. I mean, coming close is nice. They're a lot better team than they were last year, but you got to win these kind of games if you're going to succeed in the SEC. We're going to go ahead and take our first break of our second hour here on the Tuesday Sports Call, but there's more to come right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy and Randy here with you for another 40 minutes, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free or locally at 334-887-3401. The phone lines are open on this segment. Next segment, we'll welcome in, hopefully, Jason Caldwell, get an update on everything going on in Auburn athletics. But right now, we'd love to hear from you.
Which defensive player have you been most impressed with for Auburn so far this season? That's our question of the day. Had a lot of phone calls based around that one, a lot of interaction on social media. You can also give us your prediction on Auburn and LSU this weekend. Tiebreaker, Duke Williams, passing yard receptions that he'll receive, or receiving yards. That sound better?
That sounds better.
I made up a few words on that one, but Duke Williams is the tiebreaker this weekend. We talked a little bit about Arkansas, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Georgia, equally as bad. Georgia 35-32. I'm sorry, I can't cheer for Georgia anymore. They've had our number. I know we got over the hump a little bit last year, but Tennessee, still Tennessee. They're just like Arkansas. They can't quite find a way to come out on top in the end.
Yeah, again, it's good to be close. Obviously, Tennessee is a whole lot better than they were last year. You can see the difference in the recruiting. You can see the job that Butch Jones is doing. But you've got to, if you get this close, you've got to start winning some of these games sooner or later. You look down. I'm just so underwhelmed with Hudson Mason so far with Georgia. He 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 147 yards. You see, look at Georgia, 1 of 10 on third down. I mean, those are the kind of things your quarterback has to step up in those situations. Todd Gurley, I've been screaming now for a while. You see Georgia in these games like against South Carolina where he'll have about 18 carries. They finally give it to him 28 times, and big shocker, Georgia wins the football game. He runs for 200 yards.
Yeah, Todd Gurley is the real deal. The Heisman Trophy current ballot I see, Marcus Mariota, Todd Gurley, Amari Cooper. Those three in whichever order you want to put it in. Is that how you see it so far, Andy?
I think Gurley's the guy to beat, to me. I mean, I guess Marcus Mariota has got the opportunity to really have some marquee games, and if he continues on the pace he's on, he'll certainly be there. But I don't know. I can't help but look at Todd Gurley and think that guy is the best player in the country.
I agree with you. And does that go? How far does that go? Does the eye test go how far? And Amari Cooper, look, I'm no Alabama fan. I don't want to see them with another Heisman Trophy by no stretch of the imagination. But this guy's unreal, and if he continues down the path, and with Lane Kiffin as the coach, he's going to give him as many opportunities as he needs every game to put big numbers up.
Yeah, if they're going to throw it to him 10 or 15 times a game, his numbers are going to be out of this world because, he's proven that, just the little short dump screen passes he can take to the house. He's gained so many yards just on those passes. And then you saw him get deep against Florida. I'm not sure what Florida was doing, but if you don't cover Amari Cooper, he's going to hurt you.
I am not sold. Can Ole Miss, do they stand a chance this weekend? They put up 24 points against Memphis. It was ugly. Defensively, they hold them to 3, only give up 104 total yards in the ball game.
And yet it was a 7-3 game in the fourth quarter.
I can't see Ole Miss. I see it much like Alabama had them last year. Did they score a point against Alabama last year? I didn't think so. They got shut out. With Bo Wallace as quarterback, that's what you're going to get, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is Bo Wallace. 22 of 37, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. That's who he is. That's who he's always going to be, and that's who he's going to be Saturday. I think Ole Miss's defense will play well. I think they'll play probably Alabama better than anybody else has played them this year. I think Ole Miss is talented on the defensive side, but they won't be able to score on Alabama, at least enough, at least from what I've seen this year. Now, maybe they were looking ahead a little bit. Memphis is not a bad team, but still, it's 7-3. And everybody doesn't seem to bother them that Ole Miss struggles with Memphis. Everybody said, "What's wrong with Auburn?" For winning 45-17 over La Tech, but Ole Miss wins. They're 7-3 going to the fourth quarter of Memphis, and everybody says, "Well, they were just looking ahead." Well, maybe not, maybe not. But I'm like you. I don't see I think Ole Miss is highly overrated at number 10 in the country.
I definitely think so. Jason Caldwell up next at 5:30, so stay tuned in. We'll try to get some updates on the injury issues with Auburn. South Carolina, I don't know. I think they're back to South Carolina. In my opinion, Mike Davis, he needed to be dynamic offensively to take Dylan Thompson and this team to the next level. And defensively, they're nowhere near where they have been. Does that have anything to do with some of their key players being gone? Does it have anything to do with the secondary? When I look at it, I knew that my radar went up against A&M, but it's definitely up now. This South Carolina team, I'm glad. Look, we may end up losing to them at home, but we're going to have to play pretty poorly to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, their defense is just horrendous. There's no other way to say it. They cannot get teams off the field. They don't play the run well, and they play the pass even worse. So Lorenzo Ward, his days may be numbered there in Columbia. Look, you look at this game, and South Carolina was in control but they cannot. Again, they cannot get Missouri off the field. Matty Mock, he has a very uneven game, very unimpressive, 132 yards, but he gets it done. He steps up when he has to, and they win in the fourth quarter, going away. So it was probably a little, like I said, it was probably good. It's one of those things that kind of how college football balances itself out. You saw Missouri go. And win there in Columbia after South Carolina broke their hearts, in Missouri last year. But I'm like you. You look down the line here, and Dylan Thompson is just not a great quarterback. And South Carolina is not – there's a reason he's never started. Now he's a fifth-year senior. He's gotten his chance. He stepped up against Georgia, but I think that was as much Georgia being Georgia than it is anything else. So I don't know. You look at South Carolina; they're now 3-2. They've dropped 2 already. You would think they're probably out of it. Although, with the attrition and with the difficulty that you see week in and week out in the SEC, who knows? They may still hang around. So I don't know. It could be interesting moving forward. We'll go ahead and take our mid-hour break here on the Tuesday Sports Call. When we come back, hopefully we'll be joined by Jason Caldwell from inside the Auburn Tigers. More Sports Call on the way right after this.
Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is a proud sponsor of the College Football Playoff. Dr. Pepper, always one of a kind.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Andy Graham here with you until 6 o'clock, taking your phone calls at 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free or locally at 334-887-3401. We'll go to the Auburn Opelika Tourism Hotline and welcome in our very good friend Jason Caldwell from inside the Auburn Tigers. Hey, Jason, how's it going today?
Hey, Andy, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Auburn defeats Louisiana Tech 45-17 on a overcast homecoming afternoon. They got a good win, although certainly a lot to work on as well. But the injury situation, it was really the first time all season that Auburn has dealt with some significant injuries. Can you just give us an update on Patrick Miller, Chris Frost, and Casanova McKenzie?
Yeah, all the guys are still listed as day-to-day, I guess, I was on. So I would imagine, tonight they'll get a chance out there practicing right now to kind of get a little bit better feel for those guys. But the good news is that, three veteran guys, as long as they kind of get a feel for the game plan, I think they should be fine and ready to go, especially the defensive guys. So I probably get a little bit better feel for them later in the week, from Gus Malzahn. But right now, still day to day, and so that means a lot of reps this week for Anthony Swain and Trey Williams, and obviously Devontae Danzy inside at guard, and maybe even Robert Leff at tackle. Kind of depends on how they want to do things. So a week to kind of test your depth a little bit for the Tigers.
Casanova McKenzie described as, I guess, a mild concussion. I know Auburn specifically is very deliberate and very cautious about injuries like this. Is he a guy that maybe is the one guy that you might not see Saturday?
I think actually he may be probably the most likely. I think mild concussion, probably one of those things where it probably just gets him out of the game Saturday. As long as he can kind of get back, move around, I would think he might be the guy that'd be most likely to be able to go. Patrick Miller was in a boot Saturday, and so, for an offensive tackle, an ankle like that, if that's what it was, an ankle sprain, that could be a little bit dicey. And then Chris Frost, kind of got fell on with a knee, and so those two things. But I think Casanova, they checked him out on the sideline Saturday and kind of made sure the mobility in his neck and all those things were good. And I think for them it was just a matter of, look, don't need him. There's no need to push things here and kind of sit him out the rest of the way. So we'll see, come Saturday. But I think, in the end, I think probably those guys will be ready to go, and I think Casanova will probably play.
Well, if Pat Miller is not able to play, do you see Auburn sticking with that rotation of moving Avery Young back out to tackle and putting Devontae Danzy at left guard and Chad Slade at right guard?
Yeah, I think that's the one that you look at the least intrusive. I think that's probably what you do would be to move Avery Young back out there at tackle. He played a lot last year. He's comfortable out there. Chad Slade back to a spot he's played. And then Devontae Danzy, you let him kind of jump in there where he's played a good bit before. The other option would be putting Avery Young back at guard and Chad Slade, back at the other side as well, and then having Robert Leff probably at right tackle. And I think going against LSU for your first time playing really in a true environment, that'd probably be a pretty tough test to do that for Robert Leff. So my guess is if Patrick Miller can't go, probably had Devontae Danzy at left guard.
It's hard to say this. I guess you're in a good position when you can say this, but 473 total yards, 254 rushing yards, about 5.3 average. And yet, I think it's probably fair to say that the offense sputtered a little bit Saturday. Auburn continues to not be as nearly as dominant running the football as they were last year. What was your assessment of the game as far as the difficulties Auburn encountered?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You look at it and you got everybody asking what's wrong with an offense that just scored 45 points. And they did get helped out by a punt return and a short drive following a turnover. But, even you take those away, you're still 31 points. And so it's, you look at the numbers and very similar to what did against Louisiana Tech the first game of the season. This is another one of the teams that most people think is one of the best teams in the country. Similar numbers and similar score against Louisiana Tech. So I think you look, and I thought Auburn was very basic on Saturday. I think they didn't do a whole lot. Tried to work out some of the kinks in the running game, and it took them a little while to get going, I think. But once they got into the second half a little bit, they were able to open some things up. And so I think they've held on to a lot of things. They haven't done much yet. My guess is we'll probably see a little bit more of those this weekend. But the biggest thing for me is that Auburn's got, people look at the third down numbers. I think Auburn's got to be better on first down. They have far too many, less than 3-yard gains on first down. And you do that, you put yourself in some obvious passing situations. And they've only thrown 10 passes on first down the last 2 weeks combined. So teams are able to load up against the run. I think they've got to come out and challenge LSU a little bit more. But, the downside is that LSU is a team that against pretty much everybody this year. They've given up big plays in the running game against, Wisconsin and Mississippi State. They gave up a good bit of yardage. So you want to kind of challenge them where they're weakest. And that's strange to say for LSU. That's in the middle of the defense.
That is strange. That is strange to say. Our question of the day here today was who has impressed you the most on the defensive side of the ball? Auburn really has played well, really from top to bottom on the defensive side of the football this year, which has really been a welcome change from the last several years. Who has stood out to you the most on the defensive side?
You look at it, and obviously the front seven has played well. So you've got guys like Montravius Adams and Devontae Lambert that have played well. I think, both linebackers play well. But for me, the guy that has probably done more and gets less noticed is Jonathan Mincy. Teams aren't throwing the football his way much. He's kind of making it a one-sided affair. And, because of that, Jonathan Jones is giving up a couple more plays, but they're also taking a lot more shots because they're not throwing it at Mincy. So I'm really impressed by the way he's played. This weekend, obviously a big test when you talk about Malachi Dupree and Traven Durrell and Trey Quinn. So I got some young, talented wide receivers. So, but I really think that the way they've been able to play in the secondary, to throw Trevon Reed into the mix and Josh Holsey and Rudy Ford, they've been able to play man coverage and allow Auburn to go after teams with the blitz. And that's something they haven't been able to do in 3 or 4 years.
We've got Jason Caldwell from inside the Auburn Tigers joining us here on Sports Call this afternoon. Quan Bray just has an outstanding game Saturday. Really kind of, I guess, if it can be, as a senior, a coming out party for him. Just talk about his progression, since he's been at Auburn and just about him personally.
Quan is one of those guys that's always greets you with a smile and has done that, in his entire Auburn career. And it's probably gone through as about a difficult situation as anybody could possibly have, there as a freshman. I think, it makes it tougher for a guy like that. But he's dealt with it exceptionally well. He's done a good job of being strong. And, he hasn't let it impact his play. He hasn't been a guy that's had a whole lot of opportunities. When he has, he's made the most of them. And, got to see that Saturday. He's really improved as much as a punt returner as anybody I've ever seen. He talked about as a freshman, he's had enough problems catching the football. But now he is getting north and south. He looks quicker and more explosive, and I think a lot of that's because he's more decisive. But he's made plays, and you look all of a sudden now he's a legitimate another threat outside at wide receiver for Auburn. And when you look at the strength of this team right now, and it's in the wide receiver core. I think because of that, this team has an opportunity to test teams in different ways that they haven't had in quite a while. And it may take away some of that running game. It may take away, the 400 and 500 yard running games like they had last year. But I think it makes this offense more balanced. And in the end, I think it's going to make it a more difficult offense to defend for teams.
Well, let's turn our attention to Saturday. Auburn welcomes in LSU. Auburn 3-7 in their last matchups with LSU. Haven't beaten the Tigers since 2010. They just LSU always seems to give them an enormous amount of trouble, especially defensively. Usually because of the athleticism that is always on that LSU team. When you look at this matchup this year, and you mentioned earlier, kind of LSU, oddly enough, their weaknesses being in the interior defensive line. How do you see Auburn matching up as far as Auburn's strengths versus LSU's weaknesses?
Yeah, I think it should be a good matchup, but the question that can't be answered yet is how LSU is going to change things with Auburn. Will they follow the pattern that Kansas State and Louisiana Tech has kind of done the last couple of weeks, which is there may only be 6 or 7 guys in the box when the ball snaps, but as soon as it is on first down, they're sending safeties and corners and everybody to run blitz and try to cut down the running game. If LSU does that, it obviously takes some of the pressure off that interior defensive line, but also puts pressure on the secondary. And so, it's a secondary that had some busts. Against Mississippi State, gave up some big plays in the passing game, and a lot of that's because they had to pay so much attention to the run. And if you're Auburn, you look at what Mississippi State did to attack them, and you use your quarterback, as a running weapon. And Nick Marshall had 100 yards rushing last week. Not a lot of those were Tone Reed type plays. A couple of them were quarterback scrambles. I'll be very surprised if we don't see more of the true zone read start back up this weekend and look more like they did toward the end of the year last year and give teams another threat to worry about in the running game. And then they started doing a little bit last week of building the pass off the zone read and make the corners they have to stay at home. And so I think showing that last week cuts down on some of the safety and corner blitzes when they give that read look. And so I think they'll start to incorporate more of that this week and make LSU play a little bit more straight up.
Jason, it was announced that Brandon Harris will now get his first start in Jordan-Hare Stadium. It came down to really LSU and Auburn in his recruitment. I know Auburn was really, really heavy after this guy because a tremendous dual threat quarterback. I know you covered him a lot, and just tell us a little bit about him.
Brandon Harris is a great kid, a guy that I really enjoyed getting a chance to talk to during the recruiting process, and a really good football player. He really came on strong, as a senior and had a strong finish to his career down in Louisiana. And, because of that, here he is as a true freshman. He got helped out by being an early graduate. So he got to go through spring practice and get his feet wet, and I think that's enabled him to be as good as he's been so far this year. But it'll be a different story coming on the road, and there's kind of two trains of thought. Sometimes you look at the Ryder Cup this past weekend, the guys that played the best were the rookies who didn't know any better. And sometimes going on the road, freshman's just young enough to go, it doesn't matter, he just plays football. So he may turn it loose and play well, but I think, there's going to come a point in the game where the crowd, Auburn's defense, everything has an impact. And, I think this has a chance to be a really, really great environment because of the situation and, because people realize how important this game is, being a home game. Obviously with the schedule coming up down the road for Auburn, this is one of those that you better win this one and take care of business and get to the next one. So I think Brandon Harris has all the tools to be really good. A lot of young weapons around him as well, but boy, playing at night, Jordan-Hare Stadium for your first start is going to be a whale of a test.
Well, Jason, just kind of bring us up to date and give us a preview of what's going on right now at Inside the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, you can find lots of talk, lots of previews, getting ready for this weekend. Gus Miles on video up from today's press conference there on the site, as well as Coach Pat Dye, his thoughts on this week and his thoughts on the weekend's games in the SEC. But we'll continue with previews throughout the week. Obviously, we'll have some thoughts from the LSU side of things as well from our Tiger Sports Digest guys from the LSU Scout site. So lots of previews, lots of talk, getting ready for LSU this weekend, and also some recruiting talk. Should be a big weekend for the Tigers as well in that department. So lots of stuff going on at autigers.com.
Jason, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon as always on Tuesday. You do a great job covering Auburn athletics. Be sure to everyone go out and check out Inside the Auburn Tigers. Jason, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good day.
You too, brother. We'll be right back with more Sports Call. One final segment right after this.
Call is brought to you by Resource Natural Spring Water. Resource is 100% natural spring water with naturally occurring electrolytes that support a lifestyle of well-being. When you need to refresh, revitalize, and replenish, it's always Resource Natural Spring Water.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. And Randy here with you until 6 o'clock. This final segment of Sports Call this afternoon. There's still time to get that final phone call in, 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free, or locally at 334-887-3401. Randy, Michigan, it just seems to go from bad to worse. They invite Minnesota in, who beats their brains in, takes the little brown jug from them. I think Brady Hoke probably drank what was left in it before he gave it back because he needs it. And then you have this situation where Sean Morris, the backup quarterback, comes in for an ineffective Devin Gardner, and he takes a terrible hit right on the chin. He is very wobbly, but they leave him in for a play. Then he comes out. Then he comes back in, even though he's not cleared to come play. There's now they're talking about the need to fire the athletic director, Brady Hoke. It's just a mess in Ann Arbor.
It's a wild story. Let's quickly go to the phone lines. I've got a comment on that. But, Tony, you're on Sports Call.
Hey, guys, War Eagle.
War Eagle to you, Tony.
I was away from the radio, and I heard what's the guy from the guest you just had?
Jason Caldwell.
There you go. Y'all were getting into the injuries.
He said everybody.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm concerned. I'm concerned with all of them, but the two one I'm concerned with the most, as far as Auburn's being healthy and ready to play ball, is Casanova and Chris.
Yeah, he said Casanova McKenzie would probably be the best bet as far as the one that will play. I think that the mild concussion, I think he's going to be okay. I probably look for him to play. Now, Chris Frost, he's listed as day-to-day. It looks like he's probably going to be able to play, but, you never can tell. You expect him, this injury, is not a very serious one. You expect him to make some progress going forward, but you can never really tell.
Did the coaching staff or Coach Malzahn specifically say what kind of I know it was a knee injury. Did he give any specifics on it, or did he, just a generalization?
I think it was just generalization.
And so he was saying he was nicked up, and it'll be a day-to-day thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and the other guy was Patrick Miller.
Right, and he was in a boot, I think, earlier, but I think he did practice Sunday. So I think they feel pretty good about him as well. Although, you move Avery Young out to tackle and put Devontae Danzy in at guard, I'm not sure they lose a whole lot as far as the offensive line is concerned.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't want to speak a minute on this guy. And I know you're running short on time. Listen, coaches are out there coaching. They're running the game. They depend on a staff that's hired to tell them whether these players are physically or mentally ready to play ball. I can't see how you can blame that on Brady Hoke. I know when I was playing at Jeff Davis back in the 70s with Charlie Trotman, that they set you on the bench for a player or two. They come over there and stick three fingers up and ask where you at and how many fingers you're holding up. And if you tell them the right thing, they give you a helmet back and you go back in the ball game. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. It's, I'm sure the tests are a little more extensive, but there's no way. I mean, I have a hard time getting around blaming this on the medical staff. And that's all I have.
Well, we appreciate your phone call today. And again, we're up against the break of the program. And I know tomorrow you and I will be back with Sports Call, and we'll talk a whole lot more about this Michigan situation.
Thanks for all of you out there that have joined us this afternoon. We appreciate all the phone calls as well. For Randy Lee, I am Andy Graham saying so long for now. We'll talk again soon.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup. Randy Lee alongside Scott Hardy this evening. 800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. Love to hear from you. Action-packed program that we've got tonight. 3 great guests lined up, and we'll pass those along here shortly. About 5 minutes here to open it up, and we got a lot on tap. We'll talk about the games this past Friday night here in the Lake Martin region. If you were out at some of those ball games, love to hear from you. Love some of your thoughts. Big win for Benjamin Russell over Stanhope Elmore, 28-7. Dayville downs Tallahassee in a classic 14-11. That series just continues to get better and better. Horseshoe Bend plays outstanding football, takes down Collinsville on the road, and some great matchups that we've got coming up this weekend. Scott, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and this was a great week of football, and I was really excited to see how Dayville was going to be able to handle Brandon Baines. He was the leading rusher in the state coming into the game, number 4 in the country nationally. So he's been one of the more dynamic players in the area, not only here but around the state. And for